understanding already. You might understand some of this already, but for some people it's going to be new. So it'll be good, but it's just going to explain more or less what the market does in depth. So when it comes to the schematic that I always draw for you guys, this is the schematic that I always draw. Something like these, something like these, like these, like these, like these. And then we have the key areas in price, which are either this low or we have this area here. Then we have this main phase, which is what? The consolidation phase. This is usually our Asian session, and this is something that happens all the time, and we always want to pay attention for price to push and leave a gap behind. Through those gaps that get left behind, that is the areas that we like to take advantage of the price action. That's where we like to take advantage of the trades. Now, down here, this is an example of a false break move when we run highs, run lows, and then go the other direction. This is a false break move, meaning it's a little bit more risky to try to catch these types of trades. Now, that doesn't mean you can't catch these trades. That doesn't mean when you do catch it, it's not possible because these will be some of the best trades you'll ever catch. It'll just be a little bit more tricky to try to catch them, right? But these will be the false break moves. And the safer bet is waiting for price to show you it wants to go a specific direction and then wait for the fair value gap play. It could be an imbalance. It could be a full fair value gap. It could even be an inverse fair value gap, whatever it may be. It can be maybe the daily high. I did that wrong. Say the daily high is like right over here. And what do you guys remember the daily high as for the people that were here? What is the daily high? Let me see. I know someone knows it. Oh, the one person I knew that knew it for a fact isn't here though. Let's see if you guys know. For what is the old daily high in form of? Like it's another thing. For the people that were here yesterday, you're gonna have the best bet. But keep it simple. What is a daily high? Think on the higher time frames. What a daily high is. Yes, it is liquidity, but in terms of like an actual P, like a reason to get into a trade, there's something. The previous day high is something else. If that makes sense. I'm gonna try to give you guys some time. Even if you need to, I'll go to the daily time frame real quick. If I go to the daily time frame, I'm not even going to try to say much. If I go to the daily, what would be the equivalent of a previous day's high or previous day's low? Either one. What would these be the equivalent of? Just think, keep it simple. Trust. This is stuff you all know already. I'm making it any more complicated. I might be probably making it more complicated than I need to. But this is all it looks like something, right? This is something that, you know what I'm saying? I just want you guys to say the word. I'm gonna wait. We gonna figure it out.
Daily gap.
Daily gap. Yeah, there we go. We're getting close. We're getting close. It is a daily gap, but what type of gap? Because remember how I said there's.
Imbalance.
There you go. So with the daily highs and lows, those are another way of basically showing that there's an imbalance. So if we go back to over here, say for example, we're looking for this for value gap here. That could also be the equivalent to the daily high being over here, retracing into the what? The daily imbalance. So there's a lot of stuff that can form into this picture overall, but the main schematic is something like this. Now, I don't want to talk too much on the daily gaps. If you guys don't understand what I meant by that, go watch yesterday's session because that's going to teach you exactly that. But for the people that don't know what this is, now there's three little phases within the market. The one that I usually didn't mark up for you guys like visually was this one right here, which will essentially be the manipulation phase. Essentially the phase where you're getting the false breaks, you're running people's stop losses, you're taking people out the market, you're making people think it's going to go lower when it's really about to stop you out and then go the other direction. That is this phase of the market. There's three phases. The first phase is what? The consolidation. I'm going to even just say the real, I can't spell, accum, fuck. That's why you stay in school, kids. First phase, accumulation? Some of these? Is there autocorrect on this bitch? I don't know. Accumulation phase, you also, aka, like the consolidation. Yeah, I wish it was autocorrect on TradingView. But hey, y'all get the idea. I wasn't here to spell right. But we have the accumulation and aka the consolidation. But that's like the first phase. That's just essentially the Asian session range. That's essentially when we're chopping around. That's when we're creating liquidity above and below the highs and lows. Where are the highs and lows? Up here. So we're creating liquidity above and below so that we can potentially get maybe a false break move. So we could potentially get that second phase, which is going to be what? And always keep in mind, it always starts with the consolidation. That is one thing that I learned. I'm not sure exactly where I learned it, probably from ICT or something, but it always starts with the consolidation. Like it doesn't start with the manipulation, doesn't start with the expansion. No, it starts with the consolidation. When you think of price action, it starts from consolidation, has a false break of some sort. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it just grabs liquidity in a little bit of a lower time frame, but it doesn't run the major highs and lows. But then it'll do something exactly along the lines of this. But the second phase after accumulation, aka consolidation, is going to be the manipulation. Fuck. Trying to spell without autocorrect is crazy. Because now it's like I don't know if I spell it wrong, but I just feel like it's not right. You. This is when my OCD comes in. Because I don't like being wrong. But now I don't know if I'm wrong. I might have got it. Maybe. I don't know. It looks about right. But the manipulation phase, aka, if you want to call it, the liquidity grabs, people call it liquidity grabs. That's another example of something like that happening. What's another one? False break will be another one. Stop loss, hunt. These are like different ways of people being able to call what's happening. But what do you think that is? It's grabbing liquidity from old highs or lows, grabbing liquidity from Asian session highs or lows, previous highs or lows, London session highs or lows, right? A lot of the time, though, what session do y'all think this move is happening? What's the main session this happens in? Even if it looked like this, the trend don't matter. Like in terms of the trend, it doesn't matter. It could be upside down like these. What session does this mainly happen in? This false break type of move. Think of it like this. I'll even draw it like this. What does this look like?
London.
London. Usually it's London session. It's just what happens. Now you can even look over here. Look, consolidation, right high, drop. So I mean, it's right in front of y'all for the most part. But let's keep going over this because this is the same thing we're going to be able to go back into price action and observe it all later. So now we have the first phase, accumulation, is when we consolidate. I'm going to label them also. So this is phase one. I'm going to make it in, what's the color we don't have? We don't have yellow. Can you see the yellow? Yeah, you can see the yellow. So we have phase one right here. And then we have phase two here. And then now we're going to be into phase three, which is the last phase, which honestly, this entire phase right here is like these. It's not the gap. The gap is what we look for. But this entire phase is the distribution phase. This is the phase where price goes up, 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 or down, down, down. But it's the phase that is actually going where it needs to go. It's the phase that the volume comes in. It's the phase that we already made the low of the day. We already made the lowest point that we're going to make, or the highest point that we made, and we're going to continue going in the main direction, which is when you get the expansion, aka that is the third phase. So, yo, being on here sometimes be tweaking. Third phase is going to be expansion. If I spelled that right too. I don't know. People in the YouTube, you correct me or something. I might just put this part in there. So I need like a couple thousand people to let me know if I spelled this shit wrong. Because autocorrect ain't here to help me. But expansion, aka, yo, I really can't spell. Distribu, not a, bution. There we go. Just got to sound it out sometimes. Third phase is expansion phase, aka the distribution phase, aka the phase that you're just going to get the volume. This is the phase where you're going to get the fuck up out of there. Hopefully, ideally. Like when we're hoping for volume, this is the phase that we're hoping for. We're hoping that we're going to get phase three to actually leave. But the thing is, you never know when that volume is going to come in. That's why having things such as the time is going to be key. Understanding when the news is key. Most times, I'm going to give you more examples of all this. This right here is usually happening during the Asian session. So in terms of when these sessions and when these phases are most likely, look at it like this. I'm going to change this to a different color also. Let's just make this black. First phase is usually the Asian session. It's not always either. This isn't a guarantee, but most times unless, this is exactly how it goes. Phase one, the accumulation phase, aka the consolidation phase, is usually the Asian session. Phase two, the manipulation. Phase two, when you have the false breaks, the liquidity grabs where it stops people out, usually that's during London session. And London session usually creates a lower high of the day when it does this, because when it does this, it gives us a great idea on where we're going to move to next. And a lot of the time, we're not awake for this. I don't got to be awake for this. This is all happening while I'm asleep. First phase is usually going to happen Asian session. Second phase is usually going to happen in London. And third phase, when do y'all think? is usually when we're here for New York session trying to see our trade play out, trying to wait for it to retrace into our gap, trying to wait for all of it to do all those sort of things. But this is like the three main times: Asian session, London session, New York. Like that's when we have majority of this price action, just like this: accumulation, manipulation, distribution. And it just does the same shit all the time. The main area that we're trying to position ourselves in is right over here, like somewhere along the lines of over here, either London or New York. That's what we're trying to position ourselves. We're usually not here for London. Some people trade London. This is something you would ideally want to look for. For the people that trade during New York, we're waiting for this expansion, because guess what happens when expansions are made? If we do this and make a fake candle to the left, what happens when we get a big candle just like this? When we expand in one direction. On the lower time frames, we're getting what? Now we're getting gaps getting created on the lower time frame. And based off those gaps getting created, that's going to give us an area now to watch for it to retrace into. Same thing over here. This gap that's all the way down here, we're waiting for it to get a push and then retrace back into the gap so we can take it higher. That's all that's happening. Just want to keep it simple. And the main thing that's going to allow you to like solidify this sort of thing is going to have the external reasons, such as big figure levels at this entries. What was the previous day's trend? You guys always say, what's one way you can tell the trend? I pay attention to London first, because even though the previous day could have been bearish, if we're doing this right now, I'm still more than likely going to probably be bullish based off of what's happening in the moment, because we have the phases of what price action does. So even though it might be short-term bullish, we are short-term bullish. But say hypothetically this was the opposite. Let me get rid of that one. Just make a new one. Say it was the opposite, and we were bullish from the day before. Now this fits the bias even more, because now we're going with the overall trend. Now we're following London sessions trend, and we're actually going with what the market is doing. We're just reading price action. That's all it is. People always say, "Oh, what's your strategy? What's your system, bro?" I'm just reading. I'm just reading what's going on. I'm reading what's going on, and I'm taking advantage of it. I didn't put no name behind it. If I wanted to put a name behind it, I don't even know what I would fucking give it. It was just a name behind it is just a way to just kind of market it in a sense. When in reality, I'm reading price. I'm just teaching you guys what to look for so that when you see it, you know how to react based off of what's already happened. We're just reading what's already happening. The market is showing us what has already happened and what is already happening. We just got to understand why to be able to see when it actually happens. So we got the times that it happens. We have the three steps. And like I said, this is in order. Like this goes in order: consolidation, manipulation, because guess what the consolidation is doing is building the orders to run the highs or lows. Then once we grab the liquidity, we have the volume, we have the orders to essentially go where we got to go. And this could be, like I said, bullish or bearish. The direction doesn't necessarily matter. But here, I'm going to go show you guys examples. But if you guys have any questions about it, this would be the time. Let me know.